peace. I live my peace into the world.
So this month, Jimmy and Russ have been talking about change. And I played that song because when we go through change, a lot of times we're focusing on the mud. We're focusing on the struggle. If we're the butterfly and the chrysalis, we're just in the goo. We don't think about how we're forming those wings, and the struggle is going to bring us into this new space. But that song is perfect for that because it's like everything new, everything. So embracing change, we're going to talk about the rhythm of spiritual growth. If you look at this beautiful picture, I found it on Unsplash, which is a website for free photography that you can use. But it looks like the Buffalo River, doesn't it? Just looks like, oh. The thing about this movement in this picture is it's a riverbed, or you could call it a creek, but it's probably some part of a river. And it looks like it has a path, but we know that over time, that path changes, right? There's a little water, as much as it's flowing and flexible, it's still working its way around. It's going a little bit wider in this eddy and a little bit further over here. It's cutting through rock. Things are constantly changing. If you've been to the same place year after year, you'll go show up one year and go, wait a minute, where's my favorite rock? Where's that place I used to sit? The water gets deeper, the water gets lower. Just life is just constant change. And I don't know why we resist it so hard. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, what in your life doesn't change? Your body changes, your mind changes, your relationships change, your jobs change. Thank goodness jobs change, right? Because even within that job, they get so boring to do. Some people like it. Some people like it. I'm not one. I like a learning curve. So if you're someone who likes a learning curve, you want things to change and you want to learn new things and you want that flow of life. So I have an affirmation here. I want us to start with it. We'll also end with it. I align with the divine rhythm of life. I welcome change as a path to spiritual growth. Can we say that together? I align with divine rhythm of life. I welcome change as a path to spiritual growth. And we're going to talk about that today. But we have to be welcoming, right? If we're shut down, if we're, no, I don't want things to change. You know, those of us in this room, we're kind of in the middle of life, except for one. But life changes and we get to the middle sometimes, and often there's a complete upheaval, right? People are just like, what am I doing? I just decided to do what everybody told me to do, and now I don't like it. I've only got so much left, and I'm going to do what I want to do. But what if we taught our children to actually open their arms and embrace life like that from a very young age? Are you familiar with Deepak Chopra's book, The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success? He wrote that book and he taught his children actually to follow their passion and follow their heart. And he said, do what you will. Do what your heart desires. If you need money, I'll help you. But not one of them needed any money from him because the universe compensated for the passion and the energy that they put into what they did, because that's the way it works. We don't trust it because we're not taught to trust it. We've been taught a way to look at this energy in the universe as if it is a man on a cloud metering out blessings. And it's just not the way the universe works. The universe works at our discretion. As much as we can open up and receive is what we will receive. You don't get, Eric Butterworth said, you don't get what you want, you get what you expect. So if we are arms wide open and our expectation is we understand that there's a rhythm and we're not going to focus on those ups and downs. We're going to focus on that vision Charles Fillmore, one of the founders of Unity, said, the only permanent thing in the universe is change. Now, he's not the only one that's ever made that comment. People say the only thing you can count on are death and taxes and change, right? Change is going to happen. It's not just going to be the same old, same old. Even people like my parents were married 57 years, but that was not 57 years of matrimonial bliss. That was a lot of up and down, you know, with 7 kids and financial challenges and health challenges. There was a lot of up and down, but they made a decision that they would do that together. But sometimes we don't continue to do these things together, but we shouldn't let it tear us down, right? The change is not and I mentioned partnerships because often we want someone to be the same all the time. We don't give them the room to grow, and we don't look at our children and say, what is it that you want to express today? What is from your heart in this moment? We really get people stuck in a certain way to be, but nature tells us, you know, it's almost fall. It doesn't feel like it, I know, but we're getting little hints at it in the morning. But it's almost fall, and we'll start seeing the leaves fall off the trees and the colors change, and then it'll go dormant and dark. And then in the spring, it'll start the cycle again. We can learn so much from nature, and that's really what we're going to focus on today. And we're going to talk about the law of rhythm. And the law of rhythm says life moves in cycles, just like polarity, right? Day and night, seasons change. Our breath, in and out. If you only ever took breath in, you would suffocate. You have to also breathe out. You have to move that energy in your body. Now, you don't think about it, right? It's part of your autonomic nervous system. It just does that until your brain doesn't tell it anymore, or whatever part of your autonomic nervous system. But tides move in and out. Change is just natural. Change is not something to fight or to resent or to contract yourself about. Change is natural. I mean, who doesn't like to go to the beach and just hear the crashing waves coming and going? But if they only came in one direction, there would be no land because the water would cover. If it didn't go back and forth, we have to accept change. So divine order is the logical process by which principle or God manifests. This is from the revealing word. You know, divine order is really misunderstood. It's one of those phrases like God's will that we kind of throw out there when we don't really understand. But divine order is mathematical. It's repeatable. It is law. You can count on divine order. It is not something to just be offhanded about. Oh, I didn't get my way. Well, it must be divine order. No, that's not divine order. That's you justifying not getting your way. But really, when you don't get your way, you have to stop and think, well, how was I misaligned with what my desire was? Because that's why you don't get your way. That's why you don't get your desires, is your own misalignment. If you're aligned with rhythm of life, ebbs and flows, and you accept and you allow and you embrace the change, you will always get your way because the universe is always showing you the way. You don't always want to see that that's what you're seeing because you think it should be something else. But when you let go of that and you just say, I'm going to be open and receptive, then you can see what it is. So we're going to talk a little bit here about nature and how order. It's so beautiful. It makes me so excited. And I started putting this together and I was like, oh, gotta talk about this. Is anybody familiar with the Fibonacci sequence? Yeah, absolutely. Most of you probably are. So it's patterns, right? patterns. And it's basically Fibonacci sequence is a number is like the first two numbers sum to that third number, then the next two sum to that. So that actually creates this spiraling out in nature on a continuous basis. But that's also happening within us. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean by that. So you see this. This is how it works, right? You've got that. And little by little, it's a bigger and bigger spiraling out, right? The Fibonacci sequence is creating this. It's mathematical. Nature is mathematical. We think it's random. We think it's just happening, but it's all very orderly. It is so orderly. And so are we, because we are also part of nature. Have you ever looked at your ear? It's Fibonacci sequence. We are that. We are always expressing. When you understand that, you can understand that is divine order. Divine order is mathematical and repeatable. It is the law. And when you know that, there are no limits for you. It's just the way it is. Now, I've got several pictures here. So order, oops, that didn't turn out so nice. So divine order. According to the revealing word, order is the first law of the universe. Indeed, there could be no universe unless its various parts were kept, and I put in and expressed in perfect order. All of the parts, all of you are a perfect expression. You might not look in the mirror and say to yourself, what a perfect expression you are. But why wouldn't you? Right? Why wouldn't you? Have you ever done that mirroring exercise and just looked yourself in the eye and just held that until you got deeper and deeper in touch with yourself? It's powerful that you are an expression of divine order. Orderliness is law and is the test of true science. True science, because science is mathematical. But so is nature. As random as it seems, it's not at all. As random as we seem, we're not at all random. We're not. We're perfect expressions. I love these images. So here's how Fibonacci sequence expresses. Like I said, it's two numbers sum, and then those two numbers, so it keeps spiraling out, and this gives you that view. But you see it repeated constantly. Once you start looking for it, you'll just see it all the time. But here's what I want to show you. That's another expression of it. It's the outworking of law. You can't do anything about the fact that there is divine law that governs the universe. But you can do something about the way you participate. If you embrace truth, if you embrace divine order, if you embrace the laws of rhythm, the laws of vibration, the many, many, many metaphysical laws that are always present and always affecting your life, if you start working with them, instead of arguing against them, because they're not going to change. So why don't you? Right? The laws are not going to change. They are what they are. They're called immutable for a reason. They don't change. So if we're not happy, the thing that we have the ability to change is ourself. So embrace change. And then you'll look like this. Heart wide open, arms open to everything. You'll feel like dancing all the time. But if you don't, Buddha said, change is never painful. Only resistance to change is painful. That's called self-inflicted nonsense. It's spelled sin, self-inflicted nonsense. That is what the folks are talking about when they're talking about sin. We are calling ourselves short of the mark, somehow short of the expectations that we have. But in fact, when we know that we're perfect, and I don't mean perfect in the egoic sense, I mean, perfectly made because it's orderly universe. You can't be made any way but perfectly because the order of the universe is expressing as you. And even when we have a health challenge, it's a perfect expression. Once we understand this, we can make changes. It's part of who we are. Charles Fillmore says all conditions are a result of a rhythmic outworking of mind. Because the law of rhythm, right? Ebb and flow, in and out. The law of correspondence, as above, so below. It's always, the laws of the universe are always in effect. And when we can live into that, we can accept anything and we can change everything. Because that's the power that we have. So here, I took the Fibonacci sequence and I made this graphic. So look in the middle, that's your little thought. Right in the middle, that's your first thought. And then you add a thought to that. So those first two thoughts combined equal the third thought, and it's bigger. And if you continue to have those negative thoughts, they get bigger. And you keep adding to it, and it spirals into a big, ugly mess. And conversely, because the law of polarity, when you have a positive thought, and then you add another positive thought, the two of those positive thoughts add to the third Fibonacci sequence, right? And then we add those two, and then we have a bigger one. So over time, your life changes because you've chosen, like I said, God is all, right? We have the choice where we put our attention. But over time, you get more and more and more of the positive experiences because of the thoughts that you put. Does that help? I just had so much fun with this because it really helps me to kind of try to be able to say to you, it's not about being Pollyanna, right? It's not saying nothing bad ever happens. It's accepting that, yes, there's stuff going on in the world and it's not all pretty. And we can choose where we put our attention. I'm not saying be an ostrich and stick your head in the sand, but choose to know that out of chaos, good can come. We can build on truth of what we know.
That's what I'm saying, you can't be indifferent to events. You get up reality and see what's actually going on.
Well, reality is perception, perception, reality. There are things happening. Do we know everything about those things happening? No, we don't. We never do, even if we're a part of it. We don't really know the truth, except that we decide what we want the truth to be.
Today, it's so difficult to find legitimate source.
Right. And so
Really,
it brings us back to the 5 principles, right? Because the 5 principles are that Fibonacci sequence. I don't mean to cut you off, but we started late today. We're kind of running behind. So the Fibonacci sequence, if you think about that, these 5 principles build on one another, just like those little thought bubbles. God is everywhere present, and I'm an expression of that. Prayer, meditation are how I tap in and I focus my mind. It all just more and more you embrace these principles. And then, of course, the 5th one is live into it, right? Make your choices based on what you know truth is in the world. The metaphysical laws are law of the universe. It is how it works. It doesn't matter who your teacher is and what they're teaching you if you understand what is underneath and driving it. Knowing in that 5th principle is really the most important one because you can know all this stuff. But if you don't choose, just like with the thought bubbles, if you choose more negative thoughts, Fibonacci sequence, right? You're just going to get more and more of that. You have dominion over your thoughts. You have dominion over your words. You can choose. You can put truth into action, and you can literally change your life. You can change your circumstances. You become, the law of vibration is another metaphysical law. you become a different source of vibration and you resonate with people of that more common vibration. It's how it works. Lao Tzu said, no, this is quoted, he's quoted as saying, when I let go of what I am, I become what I might be. Sometimes we're so stuck on who we thought we were meant to be in the world, or we used to be, right? I used to have a corporate job. I don't have a corporate job anymore. I do whatever. I've got a little part-time job. But if we get stuck in, people get so miserable during transition times because they can't let go of how it used to be. They can't let go of that relationship, that marriage, that house, that whatever. But you know what? When we let go, then we find out what might be. And usually it's better than what we were clinging to because we've allowed that energy of the universe to show up in our favor. But if we're holding on and constricting and contracting, there's no way that that energy can move within our life. We have to open up. We have to release. And we have to open our minds and our hearts to see what's next. So I want to read you something from the Tao Te Ching. And this is Jonathan Starr's version, and you can tell I've been reading it for years because I have duct taped it back together. I tried masking tape, but it just gets brittle and breaks off. So in verses 75 and 76, there's a little excerpt of 75. It says, in the end, the treasure of life is missed by those who hold on and gained by those who let go. And in verse 76, it says, when life begins, we are tender and weak. When life ends, we're stiff and rigid. All things, including the grass and trees, are soft and pliable in life and dry and brittle in death. So the soft and supple are the companions of life, and the stiff and unyielding are the companions of death. An army that cannot yield will be defeated. A tree that cannot bend will crack in the wind. Thus, by nature's own decree, the hard and strong are defeated, and the soft and supple are triumphant. So when we're soft and supple and pliable, we can move through life with more grace and ease. So resilience is the capacity to withstand or to recover quickly from difficulties, and the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape, elasticity. But see, the thing is, once we're expanded, we don't spring back into shape in the same shape, right? We expand, and then we might contract a little bit, but then we expand again, and then we're new all the time. That's why I chose that song, Everything New, because we are all new all the time. You're not the same person you were last year. You might be doing some of that same behaviors, but you can change anything that you want. But within that context of, hey, here's my new awareness. That's what consciousness is. We talk about raising our consciousness. Our awareness expands, and we become new as we integrate what we've learned. You know, people that go and have medicine ceremonies, plant medicine, they have a moment of awareness, or then maybe they're just partying and taking an LSD trip. People do different things, but they might have that moment of like, whoa, I get it. Everything is one. But if you don't act and put that fifth principle into place, if you don't integrate that understanding, it's just a moment and it's in the past. But you can live into what that awareness is. You can have that in meditation. I've had that. I won't go into the details right now, but I can share it with you. But we are meant to be elastic. Our brains are meant to be elastic, right? We need to be moving, changing our shape and our size and our thought process and our mental abilities. This is how we stay alive and we let the divine within us express fully. So here's this affirmation again, and let's say it that we started the talk with. I align with the divine rhythm of life. I welcome change as a path to spiritual growth. Again, I want to remind you of that graphic, that little seed thought, the Fibonacci sequence, as you add to it, it expands and grows and you have more. So your weekly practice is embracing change. So observe in your life where you have a little resistance to change. Just take some time this week, and even if you think you don't have any resistance, sit down and ask your inner voice, where am I resistant to change? Where am I not willing to allow? And release it. Just intention. Use your intention to release it. And then welcome whatever change comes, because the universe pours a vacuum. So when you release something that's holding you back, the universe is going to fill that with something better for you, moving you in the right direction. And take deep breaths and move that energy. Breath is moving that vital energy. You know, when you breathe through your nose in and out, both through your nose, you're recirculating your energy. But whenever you're expelling through your mouth, you're releasing energy. So you can do that in combination with this thought of releasing, is expel whatever it is and the energy around it. Thank you today. I'm sorry we've run a little bit over, so I'm going to speed through these last things. So this is our opportunity to give. I appreciate you all being here today and your willingness to be present and to open your mind. So whatever you have to give today, just hold it in your hand. And if you're giving online, we have a new QR code because we're using Gively now. You just point your camera at it. I think if you give on with your phone, there are QRs on the tables. And so let's say our offertory blessing. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. Send it forth, my blessings and my love. And Dave is coming around with the basket. And thank you all for your gifts of your finances. And we also appreciate gifts of service. We could have used a couple more hands this morning as we were trying to find our way through the AV setup. Self-care club is Mondays online. That's back. Yep. And Chris has his oneness blessings on Tuesday. This is the list. Jeannie will speak next week, and then Russ, and then Jeannie and Russ. And then I'll come in at the end of the next month along with Angela Taylor again. She's agreed to participate. So we voted, or we all said we wanted to do the pet blessing with Faith Lutheran on October 5th. That will be at Murray Park at 10 a.m. And we're going to bring potluck and just enjoy the beautiful weather and being outdoors. And if you have a pet that needs to be on a leash, and also they need to be friendly and socialized. And if they're not well socialized and you can't trust their behavior, just bring a photo, or just write their name on a piece of paper, or just come with their intention. But we're going to have fun that day.
Is it in the dog park, Aaron?